Hi, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Binbin Li. Today, I will be presenting an active learning teaching strategy called Four Corners. Assume our audience include the physical education teacher working across K-12 setting, as well as the doctoral student preparing for the advanced teaching and research roles. I will focus on how this strategy functions as a cooperative learning structure that can be implemented in PE classrooms and how it can be adapted to support different cognitive goals across education levels. Rather than using this recording to run a four activity, my goal is to provide a clear research-informed explanation of what Four Corner is, when and where it is important, most appropriate, and how to implement it effectively, and why it is worth to using physical education context. To organize this presentation, I will use a simple structure like what, when, and where, how, and why. I will first define Four Corners and clarify its purpose as a cooperative learning strategy. Next, I will explain when it is most useful in a lesson and how it can be used across different grade levels. Then I will describe a classroom implementation with an emphasis on classroom setting, management, and discussion norms, because in PE, movement and transitions are always part of the instructions. Finally, I will highlight why Four Corners support engagement and deeper learning, especially when it is applied to the structured reasoning and reflection. The Four Corners strategy is one of many cooperative teaching and learning structures grounded in cooperative learning principles. In this approach, students respond to a prompt by moving to one of four designed areas of the room that represent different opinion and viewpoint. The key point is that Four Corners making thinking visible. Students must take a position and then explain it. In cooperative learning terms, Four Corners is not simple getting students to move. The movement serves as a pedagogic function. It requires students to commit to an option in a public but low-risk way and increase immediate peer grouping that support discussion and reasoning. As the study weakly described, this strategy requires very little preparation, is easy to implement in many classrooms, and it can be adapted across grade levels. In other words, the structure is stable, but the teacher can adjust the question tab, response option, and the discussion expectations to match the learner's level and the lesson's objective. Four Corners can be used at multiple points in a lesson, but it's important and most effective when the teacher has a clear instructional purpose. In practice, it can function as a warm-up, that activity prior knowledge, a mid-lesson check for understanding, or a follow-up that prompts students to apply what they just learned. It can also be used when the teacher wants students to recognize that a question may be involved multiple perspectives rather than a single correct answers. Importantly, Four Corners works well when the prompt is meaningful and debatable, and when students have enough information or experience to take a position. In PE, that might be a concept related to performance cues, tactic, efforts, or learning strategies. The study weakly emphasized that the Four Corners is designed to get students to move while introducing or assessing content. It is why fits naturally into PE lessons. Movement is not a distraction from learning. It is part of learning environment. Because PE teacher and teacher educator often works in various settings, gyms, multi-purpose rooms, studios, or standard classroom. Classroom setup matters. The Four Corners is most effective in an in-person environment where students can move safely and quickly to four clearly labeled areas. The teacher should post the four response signs in advance and ensure there's the adequate space for students to gather without blocking the pathway or creating safety corners. Equally important, the teacher should establish norms for respect for discussion before the activity begins. The greater good in education guidance that implicitly remind students to discussion norms prior to presenting the statement. In PE, I would add these movement norms also like matters a clear single signal for when to move, where to stand, and how long transition should take. These routines keep the strategy efficient, which is essential if we want the active to remain instructionally focused rather turning into the downtime. Finally, the teacher's physical positioning matters. During this group discussion, the teacher should to circulate to listen, prompt to deeper reasoning, or monitor the participation. It is not a hand-off strategy. It is structured student talking supported by active teacher facilitation. Implementation follows the consistent sequence. First, the teacher posts 4 response options, 1 in each corners. Second, the teacher presents a prompts, open a statement or questions. Then give student a brief moment to think independently. Third, student move to the corner that match their position. Fourth, student discuss their reasoning with peers in the corner, preparing to share. Fifth, group reported out and the teacher get the snaps and reflections. The 2 practical features strengthen implementation. The first is thinking time before movement. It reduces the social copying and encourages independently reasoning. The second is a brief writing support such as the handout or organizers. The GGIE especially suggests that using a handout or graphic organizer to allow students to respond in writing. In PE, even a short written prompts or quick note can dramatically improve the quality of the discussion because students move from I feel to I think because, which support academic language development and evidence-based reasoning. A major advantage of the 4 corners is that it can be adapted across educational levels by adjusting the cognitive demand of the prompts. Frames of Bloom's taxonomy, 4 corners can support understanding, application, analyze, evaluation, and even creations, depending on how we design these questions and discussion expectations. At the K5 levels, 4 corners can emphasize on the participation, self-exploration, and the recognition of learning experience. At the middle school levels, it can shift toward justification. Students learn to explain and define choices. At the undergraduate levels, the strategy can require application of disciplinary knowledge and to interpret different principle and practice conditions and the learning outcomes. At the graduate or doctoral levels, it can focus on evaluation and instructional design, such as the student critical teaching decisions, compare active learning structures, and justify the instructional choice using theory or evidence. This developmental adaptability is exactly why Study Weekly noted that strategy is easy to use at vertical and different grade levels. The structures stay the same, but the thinking can become more sophisticated. I will use the different like dance-based or movement learning just across the different 4 learner levels. We'll just see it in class. Now, like back to the why, the reason or the purpose using the 4 corner strategies. There are several reasons the 4 corners is valuable in PE context. First, it prompts the cooperative learning by creating purpose for the peer discussion. As the Cooper Foundation described, the teacher posts the responses in each corners. Students move to express a position and then discuss why it chose the corners. The sequencing commit follows by the reasoning helps students practice the communication, listening, and perspective taking. Second, the 4 corners increase the engagement by incorporating movement in PE. Engagement is not just about the physical activity, it is also about the cognitive and social engagement. When students must decided, move, or discuss or justify They are actively processing content rather than passively receiving it. It is aligned with the broader evidence that active learning improves student learning compared to purely passive approaches. Third, the four corners support formative assessment as students move. The teacher can quickly see patterns of understanding and misunderstanding and then decide how to respond instructionally, whether to clarify concept, content, the task, or adjust the pacings. In short, the four corners is a strategy that makes students thinking and understanding observable in real time. Additionally, this four corners strategy, teaching strategy, will support the culturally responsive pedagogy, which means the student coming from different background, they will share their perspective with the different cultural reasoning and experience. A student will just specify their different need from the four corners pedagogy and with the SEL competence, which includes the self-awareness, relationship skills, and responsive decision making. For research behind the active learning technique boosts student engagement. These four corners has been shown that improve student critical thinking, perspective taking, and communication skills. Further, sum them well in educational and career trajectory. Teachers have to do like reflection after the four corner strategy, ask a question for themselves such as how did students respond to this exercise? Was this an effective method for engage student in the like controversial but respectful discussion? Or did any student change their position after hearing others' perspective, or seem more open for consider their matches or other options? So another the notification from the pro and cons for these four corners include the teacher and the student must manage time close to stay and on track. The teacher must circulate or monitor group discussion. And the student may get off task if norms or expectations are not established for the movement or discussions. By the conclusions, the four corners is a cooperative movement-based active learning strategies that make students thinking visible through the structured choice and discussions. It can be used across K-12 and higher ed to introduce topic, check understanding, and deepening their reasoning by prompting students to justify or reflect on their positions. When supported by clear classroom norms, the proper four prompts and teacher facilitations, four corners strengthens the engagement, communications, and hair or thinkings. Please use the four corners as you need. Thank you very much.